Top of the morning, fight fans. This is Kurt DeVille with Counter Punch Boxing News, and I'm just waking up. You know, read my comments. About the upcoming fight, the potential fights, and I viewed a lot of comments. I read comments. They spark interest. I care about other people, what they think about the opinions of others. You know, and people have valid points. Some people do, some people don't. But it's at the end of the day, it's everyone's opinion. You know, um, I want to talk to you guys this morning about something that just hit me reading the comments, and I think of it like this: if you look at this fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, and these guys have a similar personality, you know, and the whole thing is Deontay was able to come into the ring where that was his reasoning for not even going over to England to get into the ring with AJ. And it hit me, and I understand why he didn't do it altogether, you know. And regardless of who was ducking or who wasn't ducking, what this comes down to is character and personality. Let me explain to you. Klitschko was able to come into the ring with Anthony Joshua, but understand, Klitschko had already signed the contract. He'd already signed a contract to fight Anthony Joshua, and he welcomed him into the ring because the business was done. And then if you look at Klitschko and you look at AJ, then you look at Wilder, then you look at Fury, these guys have similar traits. Joshua and Klitschko, to this day, they talk like reasonable, sensible men. Their personalities match. You know what I'm saying? They are the same. They have similar characteristics. Now, you look at Fury and you look at Wilder. Rough, rugged, wiry, fast, quick, unorthodox. You know what I mean? They have similar personality traits. Okay? And you jump back over to AJ and Klitschko. That fight was done. That fight did not need social media to, through negotiations whatsoever. You know what I mean? And if you look at Fury and Wilder, they didn't even talk about that on social media a lot. You say, hey, yeah, the fight's almost done. The fight's near done, but they didn't talk about specifics at all. In fact, last night they asked Tyson Fury in the press conference, hey, well, what about the date? What about the venue? And I'll get to that. And he was like, oh, well, we're not talking about, personal negotiation things in this fight. We're not talking about that. You know what I mean? And he kind of looked at Frank Warren. Frank Warren, he chimed in and said what he needed to say about something, I guess, that satisfied the interviewer, the reporter there. So these guys, Joshua and Wilder didn't fight each other, because their character is different. The way they do things are totally different. You see, Joshua's not gonna, and I can understand why Joshua did. It's not because Joshua was scared of Wilder. I don't know why people think that. He was not afraid of Wilder. Wilder did not sign the contract because Wilder wanted more money. Because Wilder thought the fight was going to generate more money, and he thought he was getting stiffed. But then he would say he agreed to those terms, which those terms are still on the table. And he just did not take that fight because he didn't want it anymore. He didn't want it because the money said he claimed that he accepted. He didn't accept that because it's still on the table. He just started negotiations with someone else and thought, hey, this is an easier way to get this fight done because I'm with a guy that's similar in character, that's similar in overall compatibility with me. You know what I'm saying? And look, the same, and for all we know, and we know enough at this point that the same negotiations and the same problems were in the same fights because we have no date, we have no venue of this fight whatsoever. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody. Not E-Nuts, not Dante's Boxing Nation, none of that. They'll sweep that right under the rug. You know what I'm saying? Oh, the fights get done. See, look how Anthony Joshua is. You know, and then I was reading a comment, you know, from one of the friends of the channel. And and I personally wanted AJ there. But then I'm like, you know, AJ, he is fighting for the Provectin fight, but then it's like, okay, he's training for the Provectin fight anyway. But this guy, Joshua's not, that's not in his character. Joshua don't chase nobody. How many fights did you see Joshua chase? You know what I mean? Klitschko didn't chase nobody. You know what I'm saying? Those guys have similar traits, and I think what ended up happening, just like the same thing happened to Cotto and Mayweather. Cotto became a lot like Mayweather. You know what I mean? They had mad respect for each other. You never, ever really heard Mayweather say anything bad about Cotto because those guys were similar. You know, they had the same type of mindset. You know what I mean? Especially when they deducted business. You know, they didn't pick certain fights. They didn't take certain fights. You know what I mean? Just like Floyd didn't take certain fights because they were similar in character. Mayweather and Pacquiao was not. That's another comparison. You know what I mean? They were nothing like each other. That's why it took them so long to get into the ring. You know what I mean? So this fight is easy to be made because these guys have similar personality and similar traits. You know, they speak each other's language. You know, Joshua speaks Klitschko's language. That's why that fight was easy to be made. You know what I mean? You know, for selling purposes, yeah, I think it'll do good, you know, with Billy Joe Saunders and the Nando chicken. You know what I mean? That was hilarious. But then, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's all a buildup. These guys, you know, they gel together. They're equally yoked. You know what I'm saying? So that's why these guys are the way they are. You know, and then Joshua, you won't hear anything from Joshua until he knocks out Provectin, and then he'll give a statement, you know, to what he feels about whatever, you know. And they're trying to ignore that all those belts that Joshua has doesn't mean anything, and they do. You know, because at the end of the day, it's a lose-lose situation for Wilder. It is. Let's face it. I looked at that fight this morning. I looked back at it, and it was basically, you know, it was a tune-up fight. It was a tune-up fight that Fury needed to get the rounds in, that he needed to, I guess, to have the confidence to get himself a step closer to be ready for Wilder. I don't think he's ready. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think Fury's ready. I don't think this is the 246-pound Fury. You know what I mean? But in shape Fury, like he fought Klitschko. You know, I don't think he's there. I hope to God that he's there. But you know what I'm saying? It's like it's a lose-lose for Wilder because if Wilder knocks him out, which that was more than likely bound to happen. He knocks out Fury. Everybody's going to say, you know, Fury was not ready. He needed at least a year from having a 2.5-year layoff due to the way he got, you know, stripped and fell off, you know what I'm saying? And you know, and just had this down spiral of drugs and alcohol and binging and stuff like that. That takes time. That does a toll on your body. The only good thing about Tyson Fury is he is young. You know what I mean? So we can take the Pepsi challenge with, oh, well, you know, Wilder didn't want Klitschko. No, he didn't want Klitschko. He wasn't ready for Klitschko. You know what I mean? And that was an older guy, too. He was a lot older than Wilder was. But Wilder didn't want that fight, did he? No. Just like AJ didn't want that fight with Ortiz. He didn't want that fight. You know, and then, no, I did not see the Dave Allen fight. I did not see that fight. I did see the Malik Scott fight. But Malik Scott is a fighter that makes everyone look bad. He does. You know, so Ortiz wasn't going to look bad, like that great against him. You know what I'm saying? As an opponent, because those styles just didn't match up. And he did drop Malik Scott a few times. And he hurt him a few times. Malik Scott eluded. He avoided. He survived. That's what happened in that fight. And in a Dave Allen fight, I don't know. I can't talk about that. But if that's the reason why he didn't get in there with AJ, I don't know. To sell fights, because you said it. People already know. When AJ fights, bro, people are gonna show up. So it didn't matter who he fought. He should have fought Ortiz because Ortiz was the mandatory. Somehow that fight didn't happen. That fight got lost in translation. They tried to offer him some step aside money, and it didn't work that way. We got to put everything out on the table. You know what I mean? Because both guys, and I think it's really guys are those fighters and champions. When you're in a certain position, it's making the right decision at the right time. Now, see, had AJ took that fight with Ortiz after he knew he wasn't going to fight Klitschko in a rematch, if he would have took that fight, or if he would have fought Ortiz before Takam or replaced him with Ortiz, AJ would not. It would be so lopsided. It would be night and day, because Wilder would only be left with Spilka and Stavern, and who the hell is Spilka, and who the hell is, well, Spilka's a pretty good fighter, but who the hell is Stavern? And he fought Stavern twice. You know what I'm saying? And that's coming from, and then Ortiz, the guy that we don't know his true age, and you know what I mean? And he's old, and he had ped use, and he had blood pressure problems. That's why, they had discrepancy on the second blood test and the drug testing, right? So, you have guys, and I just honestly think Wilder made a bad decision for not fighting Klitschko. And it came back to bite him. You know what I mean? That's why AJ soared in popularity. You know what I'm saying? Just like Joshua gets flack for the Ortiz fight. You know what I mean? He should have fought Ortiz before Wilder, but we would probably be looking at a whole different dynamic. You know what I mean? He should have took that, But then, it's like this, though. Honestly, you just beat the king. You just beat the king. Fury was not even around. He was not available to fight. Okay, so we can't even talk about Fury at the time. Joshua was a great replacement. You know what I mean? And I thought that was strange. I'm like, what was this? This is Joshua's 18th pro fight? They're moving this boy along fast. This man is moving around fast, they're pushing him in there. So, and after taking a fight like Klitschko, I don't think Joshua, they wanted to fight Ortiz like that. I don't think they wanted to just throw him in there with Ortiz, and I think, oh, well, he didn't look impressive. Well, if he didn't look that impressive, he would have been that easier to knock out now, wouldn't he? That name would have been on your resume, and that was a reason. That was a reason why that fight didn't get made. You know what I mean? If you want to go back, because I love comparisons from current to old, that's why Trinidad never fought Ike Corte. You know what I'm saying? Like, the style Ike Corte had. He has a come forward, a European/African stance, kind of like how Lamont Peterson fought Earl Spence, which was a dumb idea, by the way. He kind of come forward with his hands up, but Corte was physically strong, so he had a hard to penetrate stance. He had a wall. This was a wall, and then you couldn't, it's like really nothing you can do. And he kind of elevated it up and down, you know what I mean? And, but he was in position to throw that bazooka jab and, and bust a lot of people up. And that's why Trinidad did not fight Ike Corte. Okay. So, that's why a guy like Winky Wright, that kind of has a similar style, but taller and a little faster, a little more watery and wiry, dispatched Trinidad. Because those type of styles he's not good with. Just like if you look at Joshua and Ortiz is a southpaw, okay? There's reason those fights didn't get made. Just like Klitschko. Wilder didn't fight Klitschko because he knew Klitschko, he had a wide range, he had a similar style like AJ, but get this. Klitschko was a kind of guy, he used his jab, and it would have been a chess match until someone hit the other. And I don't see Wilder really penetrating through Klitschko's guard, because let's talk about it. He ducked that fight. He avoided that fight. His people avoided the fight for him. Whichever the case is, he did not fight Klitschko. Okay? And I know this video is getting lengthy, but I just gotta just state all the facts, because when I get off it and I think, man, I forgot to talk about this, because this is a very good, point or whatnot. But yeah, these guys, it comes back around to the four fighters at hand. You know, in comparison, it's all about character. Joshua, when Wilder personally just did not like Joshua, he didn't like his character, so he attacked his character. Okay. That's basically what this is about. It ain't about the money. It ain't about the venue, because they have no venue. It's about the character of a person. And Joshua wasn't playing that game. He wasn't playing that game with Wilder. Fury does, because Fury's that kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? Just like Klitschko. Look at all the times that Shannon, the Cannon, Briggs, right? Look at all the times Shannon the Cannon Briggs taunted Klitschko. He did not lose his cool, because he was not that kind of dude. He stayed cool. He stayed composed. He did certain things. There were subtle things, but it was like if they were in the ring, he showed up at the camp. He showed up at the restaurant. He showed up when he was kayaking. You know what I mean? But he did not lose his cool. He didn't do any of that, because he knew where his status was. So he remained himself. So now I do understand why Joshua didn't come there, because that's not his style. Similar styles, Joshua, Klitschko, similar styles, Fury, Wilder. Do the comparison and think about it. But anyway, this is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and you guys been counterpunched. Peace.